Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Launch Sequence Podcast. It's another week, and we've got another fun topic to talk about. Today, it's spaceships. Well, spaceship's a new update, but I've got a good friend and good spaceship commentator, DedLeader, here to join me today. How you doing, man?
Howdy doody, I'm doing well.
Good to have you with us. It's been a little while since the last talk. How have things been for you, Star Citizen-wise?
Good. I've been enjoying the new kind of updates. I think I've been enjoying the respawning with your gear more than I probably thought I would. Probably than most people thought they would. I think that's kind of been what I've been hearing from the majority of people.
It's actually been
nice to see
more of a positive change for people.
Yeah, I think it's just been nice to see more than anything, more diversity in what people are kind of wearing and looking like in the game. Like, it kind of looks a lot less like a tech demo of people just wearing, the generic white sperm suit around the verse. Like, it looks like a tech demo when everyone's just wearing the same thing. It didn't really feel very lived in. And then now just seeing kind of like, people running around and stuff jokingly or, looking really impressive. And then that man going, oh, where'd they get that from? And then looking into it, it feels much more exciting,
Yeah, I actually just started doing a roots to riches run, kind of zero to hero. It's going to be up on the gameplay channel soon, but I started it out and I was super basic, had just a tractor beam maybe and a pistol with me, and we went out and just kind of did the beginner experience, ran some missions, found some loot, discovered some stuff. And when I had left, I noticed that everybody looked a lot more custom and a lot more put together. And I was like, okay, you guys look good. You're looking like the later stage players. And when I came back, I realized, oh wait, I kind of look like them now. And it was a cool little moment that I think people oftentimes enjoy in MMOs when you feel like you've stepped up a little in class, you've gotten to a new level of gear or something.
Well, that's the most enjoyable thing in an MMO is getting new gear. Like if you get even just like one like chest piece or a bracer, like one like a good new armor piece, being like, oh yeah, like look at these stats are a little bit better on this. Like that's one of the best parts about those kinds of games, to be honest. Like really that sort of min-maxing and hunting down sort of a rare piece of something, and I really enjoy that. That's sort of now slowly becoming a thing, and clearly it seems to be a bit of a focus of what they're doing as well. So I like that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this works as they advance through the tiers. I think one of the problems we've always had with Star Citizen is all that gear that you say it's fun to get. Like we've just had access to it so easily, and part of the qualms with item recovery is that we get easy access back. But I do think it helps us get closer to the finished version of Star Citizen where we won't be dying nearly as much as we do right now anyways.
Yeah, and I think it sort of helped expose that I think we kind of were fetishizing the loot, like the armor and gun loot a lot. Like, how people were upset initially when they're talking about tier 0 and like, oh, not gonna be able to loot the players. Like that's like the funnest part. But I think that was the funnest part because it was the only like unique part of what we could do with that, because there was no actual other loot in the game that was worth finding that would be exciting because there's so much around it. So the only thing we kind of enjoyed was the act of taking it from someone else, and then would go and would squirrel it away in our home sort of like inventories, never to actually take out and use unless we were like supremely confident in what we were doing, or if we felt that we were willing to lose that sort of armor. And because we sort of had a false valuation on what it was worth, it felt like it was going to suck losing it. But I think it just sort of exposed that, why did I want to have, those 100 P4s in my inventory that I was never going to use, that have like carried over. Like, I was just squirreling away loot, but I had no sort of intention of using it. It was just like, well, if I do use it, I won't feel as bad if when I die and it's taken away. That was the only real sort of purpose.
It was also kind of the things that you have. There's not enough other stuff to get to replace it. You could have that real nice painted S71 that you love, but when you lose it, you're really pissed off because you just know you're not going to come across a nice single shot long range rifle that you know you're going to love again.
And that's clearly so flawed as well, because it means that in that entire process of looting or being looted, like you're either you're just feeling bad because it's being taken away, or you're getting joy because you're taking something from someone else. Like there's no part of that which sounds healthy if you really think about it. But now it seems like, you know, that at least when we're going out now, we don't have to worry about that in particular. But there still is that of like, oh, what's this person have? Like they're going out and they're doing a mission and they might actually have something valuable on them now. Like there are things of value that people sort of carrying that can be looted, which still keeps that the reason to loot someone there.
That's what always got me with the complaints that looting was going to die from this, was like, there's a whole backpack, you know, that you can still look through. And it's CIG's job to continue adding loot to the game that does have to be in your backpack, that people will need. Things like fuses and ammo and med pens and valuable artifacts. And now, as we're seeing in the new patch Scrips, it's like looting doesn't have to die just because you can't get a gun off someone's back.
And security keys are a huge one.
Yeah.
For contested zones and for like the Hathor mining platforms. Like I've got a good little supply of security keys that I treasure if I ever go to an OLP. Like that they are adding, like the fact that they're actually matching the loot introduction and the new armor introduction at the same time as the that tier 0 item recovery. Well, it's not item recovery, it's just you have it if you've died with it on. The fact that they're doing that is actually, like, I have to give a thumbs up to CIG for whoever made sure that they happened in line with those things, because it would have been an absolute, well, not an absolute failure if they didn't do it at the same time, but they took advantage of making the most of it by doing it at the same time. So we've legitimately hats off for that.
We've all been subject to CIG doing things a little bit before or after they should have done them. And then we're all like, oh, okay, yeah.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Master modes.
So I get you. I hear you. It's nice that the timing kind of works out there. And I hope it continues with these patches that we're going to see in the next few months.
I do too.
Speaking of those patches, our topic of the day is the ship that I think everybody's pretty much sure is coming in the next month or two, likely at Invictus week. The Starlancer TAC is a second in the series that they kind of hinted might be more than 3. But this is an interesting one. It's got a lot going for it, more than I thought when we first saw it. And so I've become much more interested in it. I think a lot of other people have too. But can you sell the folks on this ship? We'll go ahead and get CIG a couple ship sales. Don't actually go buy it, folks. Just wait until it comes out. But yeah, please.
No, I can definitely sell people on it, I reckon, because for me, I in my mind, it's a little bit Carrack mission ship. It's a little bit Constellation gunboat, and it's a little bit Valkyrie dropship as well. And see, I'm big on I love taking out like big ships you can put other ships into. I'm notorious for doing that solo, and for the longest time we only had the Carrack that you could really do that with, and that was way too big to be doing as like a solo. But then I also really like the Constellation as well, because that has the little snub that comes sort of loaded with it, and you can do like a bunch of things in it, but you can't respawn in it. And the Valkyrie, like, even though there's not much use really for me for the dropship part of it, I love the Valkyrie anyway. Like, it's probably been my daily driver for a while, and so these updates that have been happening and are coming with the next one as well, I couldn't be more sort of happy with it.
Yeah, people are jazzed.
And it's pretty exciting because like it was so like before we had the Carrack, and that was just so big, it was way too big. And then we've got the Polaris, which is even bigger, but it has is a better version, and you can move around it a lot more. But the problem is, like, okay, just yesterday literally I decided to do I had the time and the energy to load up a Polaris. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get a bunch of vehicles out again, park them to the side, spend the time bringing them up. Then I'm going to bring the Polaris up and I'm going to park them all in and I'm going to go out and do some missions. And so I spent, maybe like an hour loading all those on. And then, because it feels nice to go around with a Polaris stacked with stuff. And so I wanted to do that. And so I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go do some missions in Pyro. And I went to a mission location where I had to take someone out. I parked kind of, behind a mountain. I was like, awesome. Turn the engines off. I go out. I open the ramp. And then the ramp starts hitting the side of the mountain and starts freaking out. And so I jump off the Polaris and I'm like, okay, I think it's fine. I go down, I do the mission, I come back up. The Polaris has flipped itself onto it's like upside down. Like for some reason, it's upside down now and I can't get in any way. So I'm like, hold on, genius moment. I'm set to the respawn bed in there. I'll just kill myself under the hangar. Respawn in there, get my gun out, which I'll have because of the respawning with the stuff on it, and I'll just tractor beam my body on through the hangar door. Like it'll be like above me if I do that. I'm like, genius. I'll go there, kill myself. I don't respawn back in the Polaris. I respawn at Obituary.
Dude, this is painful.
Oh, well, there's my marker. I'll just get a small ship out. I'll fly down to my marker. That door's still open. I'll fly in through the side door. I'll take it. I'll get my body back. It'll all be good. So I get a Pisces out. I fly there. And then I'm pinging for my ship. Pinging. I can see my dead body. But for some reason, the Polaris is now underneath the mountain. It's not falling through the planet, but I could ping it. I could see it. It's just like sitting under the mountain. It must be on like a rock in the mesh somewhere, but I can't access it anymore. And it's just like gone. I've wasted all that time. And that, that's just a bunch of different other bugs mix up into one thing. But at that time, before I took the Polaris out, if I just went like, oh, I'll just take this smaller one that I can load up that's less impact kind of thing, but can do all that same stuff. Like, I would have loved to have had the Starlancer TAC at that point, because I could have put the little snub in, I kind of see them like, it's a real 90s thing, but like to talk about, but those like play sets, like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle sewer play set, or like the He-Man, Mount Grayskull play set, and put it up. I see like those ships
action
as
heroes.
Those. I see those types of ships as the play sets like that. Like you open up, go, oh, it's like a little kid, like, it's got this, I know what that is. Like, and it's a silly thing to talk about, but I see this as like in Star Citizen as like the adult version of that stuff. Like, I can do all this stuff. I can kind of, you feel that little extra bit of role play, having a med bay, having like a cargo thing, having a little snub on it. Like that's really exciting to me, that sort of stuff. That helps bring that the dream of the sort of the nomad experience out in space a little bit more real, which is what I kind of want ultimately from Star Citizen. That's why I really like these types of ships. And and so a smaller one like this that's more kind of usable, like it's really hard to park those big ones at a lot of different outposts and stuff, and they're a real, like, you draw people's attention. I've been finding that in this patch more than anything, with so many people on the servers, like 600 people on the servers. It's really important which ship you pick when you go and do something, because it says something about a player at a location. Or if you rock up and you see someone, in an Aurora at an OLP, you're not even batting an eye. You're not even going to really register that ship's there, but you don't know what that person's inside that ship's doing. That might be me. Often it is. But if you rock up in like an F8C, or maybe a Valk, or a Corsair, definitely a Corsair says something. So like if you see a Corsair and you're going to do some mission, you might just want to take that out because you see that as a potential threat straight off the bat. So I think in this patch in particular, it's really important what your ship sort of says about you, and having a much smaller ship like the TAC is gonna not hit on people's radars as much as a Carrack or a Polaris is going to. And I think that is an extremely important part of the meta for solo players in particular, but people in general, but as mostly a solo player, this is the kind of things that go through my mind a lot.
So the name of the game here is basically you've got choices to make, and those choices are those choices are gaining weight more now than ever. The guns you choose, the armor you pick up, the weapons you're taking, the guns and weapons are the same thing. The ships that you're flying, the vehicles you take. These things say something about what you're doing, and they give you specific abilities to do certain things. The Starlancer TAC gives you a package that is reminiscent of something we'd find in a Carrack, but in a much smaller footprint. And that's the main selling point of this ship.
Yeah.
Because if you take a
Definitely.
Polaris out, you're probably going to have a 5-course meal of Star Citizen crab sandwich and end up turning the game off at the end of the session.
Yeah, not necessarily just with anything though. Like, you know, as I said, that's if you're going to like a big fighting location. What you're doing in a mission matters. You know, if you're in a Polaris and you're just at like a mining station or, you know, at a bunker or whatever, you're pretty much telling everyone like piss off. Like I wouldn't mess with that. I'd go, that's for what is potentially what I can get, which is maybe like a restock or a bit of a rearming at like a mining station. If I see that and that's all I want, if I see a Polaris, I'm like, it's not worth it. I'll just turn around. I'll just jump to another place. And because you don't know what people are doing with 600 people on the servers these days. Like maybe like a year ago, you'd see something big at an outpost and you go, oh, it's probably just abandoned. Like, I don't care. I'm landing next to it. I don't care. Like, yeah, there's 100 people on or less or whatever. There's a great chance that that's not even anything. But in this day, with there's so many people on, you never know who's on or how paranoid they might be, how trigger happy they might be, or they might have just been beaten down a lot and they're sick of being attacked. So they're the ones that are going to attack first, depending on what you're flying.
Be the problems you want to see eradicated, folks.
Yeah, it's true. Have you found you're always taking the spirit around? See, I reckon that's a good daily driver for this day and age, because I don't think people see that as a threat, but you could be doing almost anything in that ship, you know?
Yeah, you could be smuggling in that ship.
You could be smuggling that. You could be parking that under something like a a space station and go in. You could have all sorts of stuff inside of it, and yeah, I think it's. We'll tell you what ship I've been taking around actually, which is probably one of my oldest favorite ships. Controversial though, is that the 400i. No, still no one expects the 400i because they know its guns are terrible, but it's still got like really good shields, really good HP, and some of the best speed for a ship of that size. So you can like fly into something, load things onto it. People won't really see it as a threat. They usually won't even expect to see it there. But if they do attack it, you've got like more than enough shields and armor to be able to like jet the hell out of there as fast as possible. And it's unlike ships like the Corsair, you've got less things to sort of break off it. In fact, I don't think you have anything that can really be broken off the 400i, which is going to change the handling or anything.
Probably. Well, I mean, you've got the fins on the sides, which will probably matter with control surfaces.
Well, yeah, when it comes to control surfaces, but at this point in the game, it doesn't really make too much of an impact.
That ship's quite a bit smaller than the Starlancer, and I think what a lot of people will be wondering is something you've been talking about here, which is that you think that the Starlancer is a soloable ship. Now, that is it's a loaded term in my opinion, because engineering will change things, but also because they're not just gonna out and out block anybody from doing anything. So what do you mean when you say that people might be able to solo this ship and it would be a really good ship for that kind of option?
I mean, when I talk about a solo ship, I talk about in the current state of the game. I know a lot of people talk about, well, in the future, it's going to be this and it's going to be that. But I like to talk about how things are actually currently playing, because then you have a way of measuring up when they do make those changes, how it feels and how it's affected and how it should be balanced. And as a rather lone wolf kind of player guy, I mean, most people do like just try and solo a ship, and so I think by soloable I mean like how well can you actually do it if you really want to try? Like often there are whole bunches of things you have to cut off that you can't do, but it can be nice to have the option to do stuff. I remember in the Carrack in the old days before it had any pilot controlled weapons, I used to do the 890 jump boarding and progress mission. And what I would do was fly the Carrack to it. Then I would get attacked by those two defending like colors blacks, the NPC ships, and I'd get out of the pilot seat. I'd run over the bridge to get into like the remote turret, and then from there, like slowly lock in while you're being shot. But I knew that the Carrack could take those hits, that it took long enough to get into the turret to then shoot and dang it, I can't get them. All right, there's enough time for me to go to the lower turret or whatever. Then run across to that other turret and then get it done. And then like, cool, all right, done it. Back in the pilot seat and then move on. Like it was solvable, but not very solvable. Yeah. So the ships like the Starlancer TAC, I say, are definitely far more solvable because it's got some legitimate pilot-controlled guns, and while if you're with a group, you might be able to rock up and say, all right, snub, go now. And then you open the bay doors and the snub flies out. Well, a lot of the time I might not want to bring, the Carrack or the Polaris or the TAC directly to say a location. I want to bring a smaller, less conspicuous ship. And so you'd park it, just over a mountain or over a ways away. Then I would go get in the snub, go fly over, do the mission, like maybe even a lot of locations, where you get shot at by turrets. If you just park like in the middle of the outpost or town, if you've got a small enough ship, those turrets aren't going to be able to hit you. So you can just fly right in, take a couple hits, and land down the middle. That's what I usually do. But you can't do that with a larger ship because there's nowhere to park and nowhere to hide from them. So there's different options for different things. And
if you do have the guns that are player controllable, I mean, what if you can't keep your ship on aim anyways?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those ships you can't do much control on those anyway. So they're
at some point it's just kind of, I don't know. I think it really like it's hard to say if a ship is soloable or not because everybody's got such different expectations on what a solo ship should be capable of doing. Like when I think of soloable, I don't think I can go into battle with this ship. I think this ship can carry cargo. I can put FPS weapons on it. It's got redundant systems. It's got a place where I can like spawn if I needed to. But somebody else
some kind of loop, mm-hmm. And each ship being soloable could mean all sorts of things when it comes to what types of loops those play, or that may dictate that kind of loop. And a lot of people that are used to sort of small ship combat and all that would look at these ships and laugh, like because they know, like, I know how to take that ship down. Like that's not solvable, but that's not solvable for the kinds of things they're doing, which is PvPing other small ships,
right?
But I as a soloer wouldn't be going after a bunch of small fighter ships. Like I know how to like ping and find small ships that are like going to be trouble and then go, no, I'm out of here. Like I'm not going to enter a situation that I know that ship can't do as a soloer. But it's completely different than what the ships usually being sort of sold or marketed as anyway.
Right.
But that's what's good about it being a sandbox. You can pick how to use these ships however you want, really. And so if it's soloable, if it's fun, and you can pull off the loop you want to do.
Even if it has power systems that are going to drain as you do more stuff, it doesn't mean you can't fly the ship. I look at the Starlancer BLD compared to this, and they're the same ship, same size, but because they do something different, one of them looks a lot more soloable than the other. I would say the TAC looks less soloable because it has turrets, whereas with the BLD, you're landing and then using drones. That's not, it's not a super intensive thing. So I just think that's an interesting conversation. On the flip side, this also is looking like a really good quest runner for small groups. Is that something that you ever consider, or are you strictly playing by yourself?
No, 100%. Like it's a good mission ship. Like even when I'm playing with other people, like with the org or whatever, like a Carrack is probably too much ship just because it's so big, but there's not that much you can do on it. Like the thing about the characters, it's got lots of systems, but none of those systems are in place at the moment.
Yeah,
Like
the whole top deck.
yeah, like a lot of it just doesn't do what it's supposed to do, and so it's just all excess stuff to be sort of trimmed. And then things like the Polaris, like I don't think I've even ever fired a Polaris's torpedo before because I've had no use to do that, and it's too expensive to restock. But that once again, that just goes to show that what does it go to show? But when you go to look at fitting a ship like that out, it gives you more options if you're real about it. Like say with like the Valk, I love the Valk, but I will actually take off or just put ballistics on the turrets so that I've just got more power to the front-facing guns. Like you can build the ship out to be better as a soloer by just like deactivating parts of the ship that you're not going to need, and so you're going to get all that pool of like power back. So what things you can do with it are better. Like I told you the other day I was running I was getting all these stealth components, and so I fitted out a Pisces with just all like top tier stealth components and stuff, which is like, why would you ever put top tier components on a Pisces? But I knew like, man, this thing's going to have like 0 signature. I'm basically going to come up as like a dead ship. It's like someone's not even going to see this as something. But what that brings to me is access to like closer access to even just grubbing like what other larger orgs or some like doing. I can get closer to that stuff or get away from it a lot easier without actually engaging them.
Yeah.
I just you really kind of what the ships for people that are really like, you know what it's like in the comments when people say you're not supposed to be able to do this with that ship. That's just a sign that this isn't working. It's like, no, I say this is a sign that it is working. It's like, if you have your space, it's your own space dream, be able to live out in Star Citizen. The idea of like, yeah, I'm taking out a ship way bigger than my size, and I've gone out of my way to customize it to be able to do the exact function I need to be able to do these very specific things in this ever-changing world. I think that's exactly how it should be.
Yeah. There's got to be balance, but you should definitely be able to try and mangle the ship, the systems into whatever it is you want to do while you're playing.
Yeah.
I think this ship honestly looks like the kind of thing I've been looking for, just not from the manufacturer. I mean, this is almost like the Galaxy for me, and sort of the position that I was looking at that ship to hold, which was like, I keep describing it as the closest that CIG has gotten to a ship like Serenity, even size-wise. I think this is pretty close. It's got the same sort of grungy vibes to me, and it just holds that, get a group of friends together, like you and 6 friends maybe, and run a whole bunch of missions of different calibers, whether it's grabbing boxes or smuggling goods or transporting a couple people or doing a ground assault, grabbing some loot. Like, it seems like this ship has all of the things you need for a general day out with some friends.
Yep. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I recently I've been flying, as I was saying, I've been flying the Valk around, and I had some friends on, and we were going to do stuff, and like it was nice that they instinctively, without kind of like having to coordinate people, when we were going to the location, they found their ways to like the turret stations and stuff, and they got in, and they were, without even me thinking about it, they were on it. So whenever we did jump into some sort of battle, they were ready for it, and it's because it was there, all the stuff was there, and it was right, and it was set out well, and like that's what I think the TAC is likely going to be as well. Like you're gonna know what to do if you're on one of these ships. Like it's not just going to be empty halls and mess halls with sort of no purpose so much.
What do you think is the ship's biggest benefit?
Its benefit is that as a mission ship, as we said, like it's good to go as a mission ship. It's probably the smallest viable mission ship. Mission ship being that it can handle the majority of sort of loops. Like you can respawn on it. It's got multi-ship sort of gameplay, like having a ship and another ship, like a little babushka doll. Like you can go out, you can have that loaded up and then go take on almost anything depending on what your skill or what your team level sort of skills are.
Well, specifically when you think of like a specific like a feature, you mentioned the hangar, the med bay. There's also the two big guns. Like, what is the actual aspect of the ship you think that they added on that really puts it over the top as opposed to just being a general purpose?
I mean, I like the little hangar part of it, but I don't think that they're gonna make it like the Connie in that you can load the ship up with it already in there. I really wish they do though. I doubt it, but I want it to be so I don't even have to worry about loading a snub in.
Yeah,
You
that
know, like
process is annoying.
if the size of it can only fit a Fury, it should just come with a Fury. I mean, it's a MISC ship anyway. Like it's on brand. Why not just do it? Like
You're asking too much of them. You're
uh,
asking for the 400. You're asking for the X1 because you bought a 400i.
It would be. I really want that to be. I don't know. I think it's just that it's. I feel like it's kind of like how the Corsair became the all-rounder, the new all-rounder. I think that's what this is going to be for that sort of carrier class ship at the moment. Like instead of just going larger and larger and larger, like we are getting like the ironclad, the Drake ironclad later.
Mm-hmm.
And all those other sort of capital ships are all sort of on the horizon. I do like that it's starting to become a rainbow of these types of ships. There's a whole spectrum of like sizes, pilot attack ness. Like you could say that this one is probably the best all-rounder for a small crew, where the Carrack is like you're not going to be doing too great sort of soloing, but you've got all that storage space and you got the med bed stuff.
Less combat too. The TAC
Yeah.
has a lot of combat. I think that's the interesting part for me, is that it is a very combat focused ship, but I am almost not thinking about combat, at least ship combat, when I think about this. But it's got these two massive guns that are facing downwards. Do you think that's going to be?
Yeah, it's a gunboat. Like it is a gunboat.
Mm-hmm. How that's not really much use for that right now.
No, there totally is. Like you always need to be able to fight.
But
I mean, you got things
downwards.
I mean, are they down? Are they downward? Do they point downwards, or is it just that the turrets are lower on the ship?
They're lower, but I do think like their visibility favors downwards facing fire.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, that is something I find I have kind of been doing a bit with, like a lot of the missions being. There's a lot of missions now where you got to land in a hostile NPC like village, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a whole bunch of like guys coming at you, and you either nose down them, or you kind of like open a door and you like pot shot one or two until you make a hole in them, and you can kind of go through them. I've been favoring ships actually where like they've got nice turret placement to be able to, like, while it's landed, be able to take out ground troops and stuff. Like that's another good part of the Valkyrie, actually. Not the way you think it should be, which is the that door, how it's got the guns that come out.
Mm-hmm.
Not that gun, but the left and right guns, which are now also pilot controlled. Those are the ones where just behind the pilot, that we can control like one gun. It's actually really nice having just one gun on a turret that you can really accurately aim, because you point that thing directly at like a person on the ground, that person's going down. But yeah, like I feel like there is a bit of it's becoming more of a thing of getting the ship to be able to almost be a tool in the first person kit, because a lot of these times they're just spawning and coming and coming, and you just need to wipe out like a whole bunch of them. And nose downing them doesn't really feel like it's intended gameplay. It doesn't really feel like it's very fun.
That'll change.
but using the turrets sometimes, like when you like land, you're like, oh god, like it's too heavy, it's too hot for me to get out of this ship. You know, I'm just gonna jump on this like turret and then like wipe out the little guys around me. It's like, you know, is that in it's a scene in Star Wars where that happens, where it's like a parked ship and they activate the turret and it goes pew 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 and they like shoot their way out of the hangar bay or something with it kind of feels a little bit like that. I think I think it's Millennium Falcon or it's something else where they get onto a turret and they start wiping people out in the hangar to be able to sort of clear the way and fly out of there.
Yeah,
I feel like
which one that is.
It's in there somewhere. It might just be in some expanded Star Wars thing, I think.
I do agree on that, and I'm hopeful that they're going to add content that fits with this. I mean, with control surfaces, obviously, we need more ships that can fly around normally and shoot down. We need like convoy missions and ground vehicles that we're supposed to be targeting, because FPS is one thing with the turrets you're talking about, but with these things, they're like what, size 5, size 7, something freaking huge. I think they're size 5s. We're supposed to be taking out some nice targets with this, you know, at least turret encampments. I hope they add that, but with how long it has taken for them to really focus on getting content that matches the Polaris coming in, I don't know how long that'll take for something like the TAC.
2 size 4 and 2 size 5 on demand turrets.
Okay, so yeah, those 2 down facing ones are the size 5s.
Yeah.
Which don't tickle.
Let me tickle. I'm trying to look at an image of the. Yeah, they're kind of on the side, some of these ones. I don't know. I think they're fine. I know that the Corsair ones people kind of didn't like because they're just pointing like out the sides. Like they can't really look forward at all. I think these ones can look forward fine. But the Corsair ones, they do have sort of a limited range.
Yeah. The Corsair ones feel more to me like space fighting defensive turrets, while these feel a little bit more like ground assault turrets. But overall, I'm interested in seeing how it balances out.
Think about it. I think they are purposely bringing this out now for very specific reasons. They've been timing with stuff like, because those downward turrets would definitely work with a line on mine with when you're taking the pit. You know, there's like let's get a whole concentration of players very, very low at that time, and you coming in, they're looking to the skies, you know. And so if you've got like a mission, like if you're looking to use its sort of dropship elements of the TAC, like the TAC actually has like a dropship room at the bottom, like it's got a bunch of seats to strap into and that, so it is sort of meant for that sort of gameplay, and those turrets kind of do make sense with that. Even especially because like think about it, it doesn't have PDCs, so those would be great for taking out incoming missiles, like ground-based missiles, as well. So that's got a huge purpose for that as well.
And that's really what I'm curious of, is if we're gonna see. I mean, they're definitely pushing content, missions, activities, things to do around the verse, and I would be interested in knowing if they have ground-based content on a larger scale planned soon. The Hathor locations obviously are a little bit bigger, but NPC vehicles, that's really what I'm waiting for. I think a lot of people are interested in that kind of stuff too.
NPC vehicles, I can see them, like, you know, when I can see them just doing the weirdest thing and it really visually looking dumb for a long time until they get it right. Like, you know, ships just driving into walls and then spinning over and flipping out, and then I can't do it until they've figured out like proper vehicle weight and, you know, physics correctly, because you just know that they're just going to be doing that spinning dance all over the place and exploding. Yeah. But I do think that they have sort of timed it for these new missions for 4.1.1, like these lane wait kind of like ambush missions. This is perfect for that, I reckon. Like I've already seen people in the Evocati build, like boarding the Idris and stuff, and I reckon that's pretty much what they've got this ship for, is to like ambush and then jump and then someone get in the snub, try and get in the hangar bay of the Idris kind of thing, and then take it like that. I reckon they've built this ship in here because a lot of people are going to be excited for that sort of gameplay.
And what do you think of these new missions? The specifically the ambush one. I've been trying these out, these combat missions of 4.1.1, and they are. Well, I want to hear your thoughts first. What do you think of these new combat missions?
Well, I want to hear your opinion because I haven't actually played it yet. I've been watching other people play those combat missions. I mean, I'm on there, but I haven't actually picked up any of those contracts yet because I'm still watching and observing to learn as much. This is what a soloist does, you know. I gotta take in all the information first, and before
I feel you there. I really do. I've not tried to do fast news before. And this year I've been trying to kind of get a little bit better about my speed of things. And I realized that when these things are first happening like this, the first week or so, it's very easy to come up with conclusions that just aren't true because so little information about these things is out. I mean, they haven't even gotten their first round of feedback from players. So it's like,
and they haven't even chilled out yet from people just being excited. And that because so many orgs just want to own and dominate something when it's first out there until like they kind of get tired of it. Like I'm exactly the same. I'm only now using the contested zones, and even then I've only been running around the one at Checkmate to kind of get used to it and sort of build myself up to it. And because I think I did run in there one or twice kind of like early on, and it was just like, no, it's just being controlled and held. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna spend days and days organizing a whole group of people to then try and take and like invest my whole life into figuring this thing out. Like, no, I just want it to be able to run through. And then now it is totally at a point where you can just be like, oh, I don't think anyone's going to be here. And then go in and then spend some time, like, shooting the NPCs and working through. And it's much nicer with being, the responding with your gear again, because you don't just have that amount of burn to check it out. And it's been fun. It's like, especially with like loot being, important again, it's been good to be able to check it out and get an idea of it. And I'm still yet to make it inside the cave in Align or Die for Hathor, but I've been doing all the other stuff. I've been doing all the OLPs and all that, like, and I'm enjoying all that part. But the 2 times I tried to do it with the org, I think it was just broken. But it took ages to do everything beforehand, and we had to even fight for the place. And we had organized on the weekend for everyone to get together to do it. But so did everyone else to organize, get through it in the weekend. So it was even more hectic. But then we finally managed to try it, and it was just busted. It just wouldn't work. It's sort of like, oh, okay. Let's just hunt for armor again instead. And we just spent the rest of the time hunting for armor crates.
Yeah, that's what I do. I just go looting. But in comparison, these new missions that we've gotten in 4.1.1 are very packaged. They are, it's so interesting watching them develop the game both on this sort of sandbox open world side as well as this very contained contracts and mission side. And these are more that latter. I think overall they offer some really good early game combat, and I think genuinely we're seeing them flesh out like the first few days of what combat's supposed to be in Star Citizen, maybe even like few weeks. This is all very early level content though. It's not quite, we're going to tell you everything you need to do, but we're starting you out with some very, very basic scenarios, and then you can kind of work up through them. And I think they'll need to figure out a way to make them last long term, because you can't just have everybody rolling through these in a couple of weeks. But it's a good start. It's got some voice acting to it, so it's a little bit more directive than just getting some text and then a beacon to fly to. It feels like you're playing a little bit more of a game. Even if it's just like an early tutorial mission, it's still more of a game mission than just some kind of like tech demo test of a new contract. But the ambush missions for me are a little bit weird because it doesn't feel like you're actually ambushing anybody. It just kind of feels like you're sitting in a
bounty mission.
Yeah,
really. It's just a bounty mission where you go to a location and then the bounty comes to you a little while after.
Yeah, it just appears. Like that ship could have been there this whole time and you guys just threw a beacon on it suddenly and told me to go after it. It's also supposed to teach you about managing your signature and all of that, but I don't
Mm.
think it quite signals enough what you're doing. Like the fact that you could do this at all times. You can always minimize your signature. Here's how to read that signature. Here's what it looks like when you're in the stealth level of that signature. Like
Hmm.
there's a lot of opportunity for these missions to teach people how the game works, and I think that's where it's headed. But right now, it's still just very basic kinds of go here, kill this sort of thing with
I
a
mean,
little more voice acting.
it'll be nicer as well when they've given more component diversity to do with the signatures and stuff as well, because there's
Yeah.
a little bit more now, but there's still a bunch of components that are largely kind of useless. I think cooling stuff is largely useless at this point. I think a lot of the stats are completely standardized amongst all of them. But it's just good to some diversity in that, so we can really see some more um, unique, complex builds being made to do with stealth. I think that there's some stuff now, like you can really make some stealth ships, or not even stealth ships, just ships stealthier using kind of what you have now, and it is becoming more interesting, the kind of mixture. But I think there's still a lot more depth that kind of needs to be put in there. But I do ultimately, like with that mission, I do like that there is more diversity with what a bounty mission can look like, because for how long was it where you just go there and it's those same voice lines of, oh, it took you long enough to get here,
Yeah.
oh, what are you going to do, I'm
They're
getting
so
lost,
mean.
again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Oh my god. Like that was so done with that. So the idea of more diversity with these is really good.
It's getting there.
Yeah, it is getting there. I think that I think we were talking about this earlier, actually, though. The one kind of concern or worry I have at the moment is that, I was saying to you that Ghost Hollow has been not working for a long while. And that, while this, Hathor stuff was going on, I was like, you know what? I bet no one's doing Ghost Hollow. That could be a really good moneymaker. Oh, hell yeah. And I was getting so excited for the idea of it. And I went, what would be the best ship? What would be a good ship that, people, once again, that people wouldn't suspect as being as a threat or whatever. And I spent all the time, I picked the right ship, and then I went there, went down, took out all the NPCs, and the computers aren't working. And so, like, I do worry that when they keep adding like new missions and stuff, the old missions are going by the wayside and either breaking and not being repaired, or they're just being turned off and thrown out in the garbage, like the Orison platform missions, which is also, I used to love the Orison platform missions. But it just seems like they say that the Line on Mine stuff isn't like a timed event anymore, but they're saying it's just a constant mission, but so was the Ghost Hollow. And so if they're just going to bring a new one on and the previous ones get turned off, then I mean they are timed. What are these, a Line of Mine ones? They're just going to break when they introduce the next one, and
Dude, they're
then
already
like
broken. What do you mean?
yeah, they're exactly, they're already broken, and it just kind of, it's rubbing me a little bit the wrong way. Like it's like seasonal content. It's kind of starting to smell a bit like seasonal content like that. And the thing is, you can't add the play count. Play counts can't go from 100 to 600 and you not be adding more missions and keeping the previous ones active at the same time, especially with like um the dynamics of the missions like that, which are pretty much just controlled by if the players are doing them, um, and those sorts of things. Like I think now it's more important than ever to make sure that they stay active. Like there needs to be that diverse range of stuff, so you can go, oh yeah, I don't feel like doing this. Oh, there are people doing that right now. Like what? Just log off then. Like no, there's been plenty of different types of things in the past that would be fun, and I want to do them.
Yeah,
I
no, I
don't always want
agree.
to be doing new stuff. I want to be able to do some of these other things as well, because how they change when other things are going on is unique. And yeah, I don't know.
I do think that they need to get back, especially like the courier missions, and yeah, things like Ghost Hollow. They're I chalk it up to the fact that they have to triage whatever is most important and they can't get it all done at once. It feels like
Totally.
both the refactors, their missions and their transit refactor, like everything else, is more work than they anticipated and it's taken longer than they thought. And I think also this year, with the kind of more shift to content than I think they were probably planning, they're just trying to put out, yeah, more of the new stuff. I don't think they've left this stuff behind. I certainly didn't think it would be broken for this long, though.
Yeah, I'd say it's not a criticism, it's more concern,
Yeah,
because like ultimately things with Star Citizen are going to be growing exponentially. Like from 100 to 600 players already, that is exponential. And we're talking about that. It's probably a good theme for another podcast or something, and it is. But what happens to the game when you jump from 100 to 600? Like, can the game's current mechanics like handle that amount of players all trying to do stuff? And what happens when we jump again to thousands of players? And how many more systems are we going to need? And how many types of Alignal minds in each of those systems are they going to be able to need to be able to cater to all these people, so they've all got things to do, and while it still remains sort of stable? Like,
yeah,
that's a really, it's almost too big a question to even
that's a big talk.
fathom. yeah,
Yeah,
there's got to be so many different opinions from so many different sections and sort of people from the game. And it's happening now is the thing, though. Like, we're in that time of, like, remember it was what was the initial, God, it wasn't long ago, it was like 30 people on a server or whatever. And then what was it before it went to 100?
50.
50, right? 50. Can you imagine being on a server with 50 people these days?
I still think about it, man. It was, yeah, dude. No, I remember when it was 25. That was, it's been a journey, and it took a while for it to start expanding, but it has been exponential. We'll see if it goes up again this year. But
Yeah, I mean, people can talk crap about, oh, CIG said that they're working on Spillier. CIG said that they're doing this or that. It's like, in the few years that I've been into content creation with Star Citizen, it has absolutely gone leaps and bounds with all that stuff. And that's undeniable. Like, and so that's pretty impressive. But yeah, if we keep going this direction, the quantity of things that could potentially break is also going to exponentially grow. And so,
yeah.
it is just a concern that things are going to remain reliable, and there's going to be enough things to still do on there.
hmm Going back to the 4.11 editions, one of the other things that's coming in with these missions they've done are scripts, which is the
Mm.
first physical currency in the game. Now, I haven't seen them in game, but I did take a couple of the combat missions today. And in the description of those missions, they said they're paying me the normal amount of money. I got some reputation, but they also said, we're also going to, if you do a good job with this, we will reward you with 2 scripts. Now, I
Yeah.
think that'll be delivered to the inventory. It'll take up inventory space. It'll probably be back where you spawn. But it's kind of a big change for Star
Mhm.
Citizen. Not like new to gaming or anything. But what's your take on it in this context?
I love it. Well, I mean, it seems like it's their solution to how everything at Wicklow was like stuff that you had to get from PvP from the Line of Mine stuff.
Yeah.
This seems like, 'cause I think you can buy in the P2 at the moment, you can buy, they're essentially the same as favors. So you can buy favors in that with Script. And that to me shows that they're continuing to work on making loot valuable. Again, what you're carrying on you be the thing that's valuable, not like your clothes and guns be what's valuable. Like, for so long, like, we've looked at, you look at a red box, you look at a gray box, you open that thing up, what's it filled with? You got a sack of potatoes, a bunch of, a Snickers, you got, you
Broccoli.
got maybe a couple, like 3 bottles of Fanta. Some broccoli, a rock, and a needle.
And some like animal poop.
Yeah, like this stuff, and you're like, this is junk. You're like, I have no use for this stuff. And so the idea that they're coming and bringing value to loot again, even putting some of that junk stuff on the the required sort of scavenger hunt loot tables, is great. And I hope they still keep tweaking that, maybe make it so those loot tables in the gray and red boxes aren't all over the place. I'd like if that was just only in certain areas or sort of sections, and so you had to really go and hunt and find new things. Because with the new stuff they're adding, I'm still like surprised by what I'm finding in crates in different locations, and it's got me searching. It's got me feeling that each area is different. You know, each area has like a whole different sort of secrets and stuff to look at, and that's what I'm enjoying the most. And so this Scrips, like adding, you know, a currency or like another physical commodity that is really, like I said, I ain't even made it into the hole yet with the Align of Mine stuff. So I ain't touching any Carnite. I ain't getting any of that Jalonite. There's no way I'm getting my hands on it at this point. And so I think that is their solution to be able to add some sort of resources like that you can get from, you know, PvE missions or other ways of like getting that to have something of value that you don't want to lose. Like, you know, you want to feel like there is risk. Obviously, you want to feel like, oh, okay, I've got to go back to like, bank this as fast as possible. You know, and the idea that if you see people that are out and they're doing something, you know, at a different location that's not like a line on mine, like, oh, they might have something interesting on them. Like, maybe let's have a bit of a scan. Let's give more reason to scan again. Yeah, it just gives more purpose to the systems and items and things that we already have. Because for so long, a lot of it was just set dressing, and would just fill up your inventory space. But they're clearly paying attention to it, even by the way that they've increased like bag sizes, how much you can carry in a backpack. Like that's huge. So they've been finally going around to like, you know, adding all the internal storage for ships and everything. It's so nice in the Valkyrie, like having all those right at the back of the bay. They got all the those like lockers, and each one is essentially like a whole crate of stuff that you can store things into. Like I love just like running in now, opening up one of those lockers, you know, dump everything out, quick turn around, I've still got to grab that other stuff before like, you know, before someone comes. Like, yeah, it's adding you know, having purpose to a lot of those systems just yeah, it's making things fun rather than just like, all right, I've technically come here and done this. Like, do you think time to get out? There's nothing else here. I know there's nothing else here. I know what the loot table's like. Well, I'm out of here. Like, yeah.
Do you think this is because this does seem like it is part of the effort to let people get more? Like, yes, these scripts are coming in for two guilds, the Mercenary Guild and the Council. And you'll get paid, and you can use these things probably in many places throughout the game in the future. But right now, specifically, they are being added in conjunction with Wickilow's missions, his collection missions, his gathering stuff. And like you said, being able to turn this in for alternative means of getting rewards that other people might have used their org to lock down these locations. So does this seem to you like a reaction to people wanting more solo-focused gameplay from 4.1, or do you think this was kind of in the cards for them?
I think this was always on the cards. I think it was just that the first iteration was the Hathor line of mine and those gems being in the hole so much. I think it was just more impactful, and it kind of taught everyone that this is what's happening now.
Do you think it was a strategy to that to show people that like you do 100%. Need groups of certain things, and then to also then bring this in a patch later to be like, but there are alternatives, kind of thing?
100%. I think like Wicklow and a line of mine hand in hand, like they are the representation of loot being the new reward, like the new thing that's worth things. As I remember I said, it was we had a fetishization of armor and guns before, where we were incorrectly in our minds it was the only fun thing to do, but that's because there was nothing of worth to loot in the game. So the only joy we had was just taking the gear off of others to hoard away at home like squirrels. But that's not a fun loop. That should never have been a fun loop. So they're finally working on adding, you know, importance to all that stuff at the same time. And yeah, I mean, I'm stoked to see it happen more. It's almost got me wanting to, you know, buy up on meat sticks and Snickers before the updates happen, or go get some, you know, Marek gems or space cow udders or whatever the hell it is you get from them there. like for the next patch hits and everyone goes out hunting for it. It was really funny seeing, like, remember that opening mission for Wicklow where you need the Tundra Copion?
Yeah.
Just seeing like everyone going out for it. You'd go out to like a random location in the mountains and you'd ping and you'd see like all around you for like kilometers around all these other players doing
That's
the
phenomenal,
same thing.
dude. That is amazing. That's
funny.
That's what we need, and we just need that in all the different areas of game loops in a system at the same time, and that's Star Citizen with, you know,
Yeah.
the annoying folks littered throughout trying to kill us all. Just kidding, guys. It's okay. You can kill people. I'm not attacking you. It's fine.
I mean, because there's also like, you know, like the scorched attachments, you know, and guns, like picking up a gun and taking a look what's actually attached to it. Like, you know, that's another little, I like micromanaging those little sort of stuff. And like grinding kind of grinding for stuff has a bad connotation because people think like, oh, it's so much of a grind. Like, oh, they make you just grind for it. It's like, well, with a game that didn't really have much purpose for grind before, finally adding in like, you know, the grind mechanics, it's just like, it's a breath of fresh air. These are the things, like, if you're grinding for something, it's because it's got you wanting something. It's got you going after something because you instinctively, like, you know, it's become a goal for you. And that's the one thing Star Citizen didn't have for a long time, is a goal. So adding more things that are goals, like script and all that, like, I've got a good feeling that script are also going to be tied to reputation in some way.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the better reputation you get, the more script maybe you get per kind of mission. And that, like, I haven't had much of a purpose to grind reputation for a very, very long time. And so the idea that I'd love to have a purpose to grind that rep, you know, they're like, the ceiling's tall on that. Like, you know, I've been doing merc missions for a long time. It's usually my go-to career stuff. But I would never really reach the top high tiers. I've never maxed out any reputation thing before, but I'd love a reason to do it, you know? And if like this sort of level of loot stuff was a part of it, man, people would be hitting the reputations and like grinding just general missions again, like making, once again, like the loot is so unimportant a lot of the time. And so is a lot of the general missions, like, other than like slowly build and get a little bit more money per level, but it's so far and distance in between. If there was like genuine rewards in that sort of script stuff for reaching those top tiers, man, people would be going after it for sure.
I do think that the scripts are going to be great combined with reputation, because now they've talked kind of about how you'd be able to get reputation and then you have certain storefronts you could access, but now it's kind of like you can't just go in, you can't just be a person who randomly comes across that rep and then you can go in and just buy everything. Now you have to actually get the currency for that faction as well. Or you can't just steal the currency from somebody who's carrying it around and then go and buy all the high level stuff that they can normally get from that faction. Like, that would suck if some random person who had terrible reputation in the Hurston planetary system could steal the scripts that Hurston accepts and then go and buys all their high level weapons. It's like, well, okay, that doesn't even make sense. So you have this reputation system that also sort of keeps that under check too. And
but they're still holding something valuable for someone else. Yeah. And that becomes a whole thing in itself, which could be really interesting.
That could be cool. I mean, it could be convoluted though.
I found it kind of interesting and cool the other day that organically, remember, you were on stream and you were complaining that you didn't have any good merc missions in Pyro. I'm like, hey, I got great mercenary missions in Pyro. I'm like, because I'm still getting this one, like, we need a person taken out mission that pays me 140k like per time I do it. And I'm like, why are you not getting this? I'm like, I don't even know why I'm getting one that pays so well. All I need to do is kill one person. And you're like, wait a minute, who are you with? I'm like, I'm with Headhunters. You're like, oh, okay. Like, that's why I'm not getting
easy
it. I'm
money.
Like, yeah, because I didn't even really think about that potentially we may have completely different missions being offered to us, and that we may be like, you know, what the same like outposts that I keep flying to for a lot of these missions are probably totally different. And then on top of that, like, when I get missions, the best missions that I kind of are getting are all around Obituary on Bloom, and I only get them when I'm specifically around that space station, and they're all for like that planet. So for other people that are like doing stuff at Checkmate or Ruin or whatever, I don't even know what planets the majority of their missions are going at, and like what if they're even different at all. And you know, I've got a feeling that they probably are pretty similar, just at different sort of outposts on there. But you know, in the future, hopefully, we're seeing that there is even more diversity in what they are. Like the idea that, like, oh right, oh, I've been working on, you know, my mercenary rep in this, you know, system over in this part of the system, but then, oh, now I want to work on my mercenary rep over here, and then it be just a completely different like loot pool, you know, reward sort of amount, reason to get up, so I can get that different you know, different class of script or whatever. Like all that stuff is just would further kind of go to the diversification of everything, just making it feel more like a real game with the different options and a more fleshed out world than it just being you know, everyone running around in a sperm suit just raging out whenever they just get killed and then go, all right, I'm done with this, game over.
Yeah, the added diversity is going to help this game this year, I think. Speaking of, considering everything we've talked about today, from the Starlancer to the Scrips to the new missions to soloable ships, just in general, we've hit quite a few topics. What does this all tell you the player is that Star Citizen is catering towards?
I mean, from what we've seen so far, I think they had been catering a mission wise for PvP with the previous mission with the vinyl mine stuff, but I think the core of what all that is, or what they've been changing, is really everyone. To be too general, like the fact that they're giving purpose to loot and all those things, and there's more diversity and all that, more reason to go around and explore. I think it kind of, everyone gets benefits from that. So I think it's for the core sort of game itself more than anything. Like a lot of it just hasn't been a lot of it hasn't felt like a real game for a very long time, and it just feels like that they're finally taking multiple different systems and taking them into consideration or how they work with each other as they're sort of slowly upgrading them. And initially, yes, it's sort of been PvP stuff, but then it's things like with the TAC and it being more solvable, and you know, these new ambush missions, like now it's a bit more PvE. Like I do think they are looking at both sort of elements, and I think they're trying now to they are trying to also just see how these larger ships all work together in an active thing. So maybe it's about that they're focusing on just the mass of players, since there is a mass now. Like they are looking into making those chat changes and stuff, like after we've been complaining for so long.
Yeah,
because there's just so many more of us in there in any server at any given time. I think that's the just more gameplay for masses that can handle like a mass amount of people, or and make it properly sort of rewarding. I think it's a really sort of part of an integral sort of pillar of the games, what they're kind of working on. Like I think this weekend that they're stress testing everyone having Polarises on the PTU. I think everyone has access to a Polaris. They want at certain times they want everyone to get on and to sort of cause havoc with it. So the fact that sort of they're bringing that base level stability, not just to running around in a space station or on ground, but into the space flight as well, I think it bodes well.
I agree. I think PvP, PvE, group, solo, janitor, FPS, I don't know. It does seem like they're not really trying to hit any specific player. They're just dropping in content that's overall focused on fleshing out the whole game. Because it's kind of like Well, it's like you said, there's a whole bunch of people here, and we're all just kind of like hanging on by a thread. Like the chat system and social systems aren't up to snuff. The party marker kind of systems aren't really up to snuff. A lot of the gameplay scenarios aren't really up to snuff for this size of people. So they're just like trying to get enough content into the game right now so that it actually feels interesting to groups of any size or solos.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there was a good long while there where they were just constantly like testing Xenothreat or constantly testing all those big sort of event missions, and they were like breaking everything. But it also just everyone was just like, why are you even doing this? Like, like I don't care about these missions, and it always just felt like they were doing it because they wanted another excuse to just do a ship sale of the same old ships. The same old like fighting ships. So these ones are good for this event mission, and it felt like that was sort of their main focus of the time, and it felt like
Combat was what
is
worked.
that your main focus?
Everything
like
was about combat because combat's what worked.
But they weren't fun missions, and it felt like they were so broken because they were just trying to update them to fit new tech instead of just start from scratch and build it for the tech. And like that was my biggest sort of complaint before. It was like, what is this development? I'm not interested. Like, we've seen these types of things before, but I don't know. But then now the fact that the line of mine thing is a forever sort of mission, and everything's expanding so much, I just that's it's a lot more interesting time to be sort of playing it now more than ever. Like it just felt like it felt seasonal. It felt even more seasonal content before, with those sort of missions being what their main focus was. But yeah.
So in terms of well, in terms of your, I guess, your pleasure in following or playing this game, where would you rank this year so far compared to previous ones?
It's hard to say because when I am still quite a new sort of player to the game, being like for 3 or 4 years, sort of that. And so at the start, I still have that honeymoon period still in my memory, of when you first come across it and everything's new and everything's enjoyable.
Yep.
Like, but then you do kind of like run out of it being new, and it just becomes how much it's sort of not working. I still have that in my memory of it being a great time, but the game now is far, far better, far more interesting, far more stable, far more diverse than it was when I first started then. So it's its best year at this moment, like for sure, absolutely best year. And for as much as people say, oh, stability is still not crap, they said it's the year of stability, it's like this is so much more stable than it was even just a year ago, like, and so they really can't say much about that. They are heading towards it for sure.
Yeah. That
Yeah, I mean it's their best year for sure.
the whole "it's the year of stability" thing reminds me of they said everything in CitizenCon 2023 would be here in 12 months kind of statements. It's like it's part of what they said about the period of time, but not completely. Like stability is part of it, but they also said content and performance. And we can see that they're kind of trying to balance those things, because I think a lot of people miss that playability doesn't just mean stability. It means fixing the things that have been bugging us. And I know elevators and hangars are the first that on that list, but like things like ship physics, and item recovery is a playability fix. It's not permanent, but it's definitely meant to make the game play better, like you're saying. So I think that that kind of, I totally get that people want more stability, but it kind of misses the overall goal of what they're trying to complete this year. And it's not just to make the game stable, it's to make it play better.
Yeah, as an actual game. And I think that's absolutely sort of what's been happening. I was like, I'm sort of a bit of a tangent, but I'm actually glad they're not doing a CitizenCon this year, because it does seem like they actually are just focusing on doing what they're doing. Because the last CitizenCon, I was sort of annoyed by it because they didn't give dates for anything, and they were all just sort of artist.
You really want them to give dates for things?
Yeah, look, I know, but the thing is, I think I was on this podcast, I
You
think, who was saying, what do
masochist.
you look forward to? And I was saying, I look forward to them giving dates and being real with it and just sticking to it. Otherwise, I don't care about it. And when we got that CitizenCon, they didn't give us dates for anything, but they just gave us slideshows of things of what they're planning things to look like. But it felt like they were trying to tell people that that's what we were getting this year. But I went through it multiple times. Like, they're not saying that we're going to get any of this year.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to gauge what I'm seeing with any of stuff. So it's hard for me to get excited because I don't want to hurt my little heart that's been broken.
Yeah, and I think that's what. So interest, like some of the stuff sneaking in, right? The guild stuff that we're talking about even today is some stuff they were talking about. But when it comes to the bigger things like Starware, Planetech V5, base building, crafting, there wasn't really much indication that those would come this year.
Yeah, they didn't really, honestly, they didn't give many. They didn't give dates for anything. It's just like they implied some stuff, but because they didn't say, it just made me feel like, well, that's disingenuous because they're making people believe that it's coming. Like, right, this is all the stuff that's coming right now, but I don't really believe that. Like, they even did like the hex code stuff.
Yeah, but I think this
I was like, why did you show that?
I mean, this is still much better than when they would come out and tell us, yeah, this stuff's coming next year. I would much rather them just not say anything than to give dates that they know they can't keep. And that's kind of like when they changed the roadmap. And that's why
I like them not doing a thing this year. That's why I like them not being a CitizenCon.
Oh, dude, you think, nah, man, they're still going to do that part of it. They're still going to show us upcoming stuff. Like, that, the only thing we're actually missing out on is seeing everybody physically. They're still going to go and say, hey, here are the features we've been working on. This is what they're going to do for you.
Do you know how much time that takes out of everyone's like having a physical event? I've done like conventions and stuff before. I've hosted like booths and panels at conventions and work panels for many, many years. And it pretty much for months leading up to it, many months leading up to it, that's all you're doing.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of people that actually need to be working on the game going like, all right, now look at all the stuff we've talked about previously and then come up with a new presentation for it. And they're stopping development to do all that stuff. And so, look, I'm hoping that it means that this time there's going to be less of that and more like them actually working on it and being like, yeah, this is what's coming up. Like, all that really, honestly, like, they don't need to look so future. They don't need to be so future focused with their CitizenCons. Like, it would be far more interesting to me if they just, what the next patch coming out, they kept really under button, but like it's the stuff they're working on. And then when a CitizenCon comes, that's when they debut what all the big stuff coming out in the next patch is going to be. Like, you know, not, oh, we're thinking of adding this a year from now. No. Just don't tell us, like, you know, say if we went back, say if they didn't tell us about the Atlas ATL, you know, ATLS stuff. They didn't tell us about that. If they didn't, you know, properly show us some of these ships and then they showed us, you know, on that time, and then that would be far more interesting. Like, they showed like the Hathor stuff. If they showed the Hathor stuff in the last CitizenCon, and then Wicklow and all that, if they showed us that stuff, then it would have been awesome. We would have freaked the fuck out. It's an alien. It's the first alien, NPC alien in the game, you know, like, and then they would have actually produced it and like, here it is, and everyone would be like, wow, I can't believe they did that. And that's the kind of scope they should have for those things.
I do think CitizenCon should be just the next year. I don't know how they can figure out what would be in the next year, but I do think that this was a weird CitizenCon because they kind of wanted to give us the whole 1.0 vibe. And so I think 1.0 wouldn't have made sense if you didn't go into depth about how crafting is going to work. So you kind of dragged into that. But I hear what you're saying. And I think the next year of development should be what CitizenCon is for. And that way you don't have to, like, I don't know, it just makes a lot of sense. You cover your quarterly stuff on these weekly things and through us talking heads that never shut up about Star Citizen, and then you do
the yearly stuff at the big yearly thing.
Yeah, for the people 100%. Who don't really pay that much attention but are going to get dragged into the marketing at the end of the year, CitizenCon videos act as a perfect annual update.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it should also explain what Star Citizen is pretty well. And this was the first Citizen Con that did that, or what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it felt a little irresponsible, the whole 1.0 thing. I think they made it sound like 1.0 was going to be really soon, because then they added 1.0 on like the roadmap, and we're all just now. But they just changed, like it made it look really close, but all they did is just change the increment in the patch updates to be smaller.
I don't know, man. I gotta blame people for not reading the thing on there, because I know people thought that because it's up there it meant it was close, and maybe they didn't have the disclosures when they first put it up there, but I thought they made it fairly clear. Well, that I can't really speak on that.
I understood what it was, but the way that it, because it feels like CitizenCon should be about this is what's happening in the next year, it gave the impression, I think, to a lot of general people that was what it was. And in the state that where we were at the time, it just left a gross feeling in my mouth. But that all being said, like as we've said, I'm really happy with where we are currently in the production of stuff, and the focus of what a lot of the new ships sort of coming in, and what these missions are, and the diversification of like the making loot important again. I think it's becoming a much better game at this point.
It's an interesting time. I want to close this show out by going back real quick to the topic of the show and asking you if there are any downsides you can think of the Starlancer TAC before we go, because we didn't really get to talk about that. Can't all be positives.
I mean, it's not going to be maneuverable. Like if you are just sort of soloing it, and you've got someone that knows what they're doing in a fighter, like they'll probably take down one of your shields, and as soon as you start flashing red, you're just going to jet out there if you're soloing. But that's the same as any kind of ship of that size. It's you're going to be a bit of a whale moving around.
Yeah. And I do think that engineering is probably going to highlight some of the other downsides to it, which is just that at some point you're going to have to care about how your power is being drawn if you're in combat in a ship that big, and that'll be a complication.
Yeah, I kind of see it as being a like a beefed up Connie in a way, a beefed up Constellation, like what it's just kind of gonna look like. When I was talking about how the impression a ship gives when you come across it in the verse, I feel like ultimately it's going to rest as people will see it like a constellation kind of sitting down, which is not too much of a threat, but you keep an eye on it in case it may be manned with a bunch of people. Like if I see a Connie that's around, I'm not really concerned. I feel like I can get away from a constellation. But if a constellation is sort of manned with people, and they've like upgraded it with good guns and components and that, then it becomes a real threat, and I think that's where this is going to sit. It'll be a threat if you're using it and piloting it correctly, and if not, it won't be too much of a threat. But as far as people that are using it, it'll be useful pretty much the majority of the time for a lot of varying different sort of tasks and stuff in the game. So I see it as a good all-rounder.
All right. Well, thank you for the feedback on that and the discussion about the ship in general and 4.1.1. It's an interesting time for Star Citizen, as we've touched on here. They're covering a lot of different types of gameplay, and I think they're actually doing a fairly good job on delivering ships. I don't know if you've noticed this focus on starter ships they seem to be on right now. So they're doing a lot. I mean, again, year of playability. They seem to be sticking to it. Any last thoughts before we sign off?
Just that I hope they keep up with adding new and cool armors.
That's right. You've been hunting for that Artemex armor, or just in general, the harder to get armors in the game right now, right?
Yeah. For me, that's sort of the real game at the moment. It's something that I can kind of log on, and then like I've got little goals here and there, like I need to get the Storm helmet from this place. I want to try and get the Morozov Pyro one from checkmate station. Like, there's little goals, like a little bit long-term goals that I can kind of log on now and feel like that I can go after, instead of like logging on and having more of a nebulous sort of goal of what I'm going to do in that play session. And it's been enjoyable to have, shorter term things to go after. It's been nice.
It's very nice to just be able to have a goal for a play session.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, again, thanks for discussing this new character killer with me. As that's a joke, everybody. It's not, but it is an interesting like mini character kind of fit. I'm looking forward to it. So thank you for coming on and talking about it. Can you let everybody know where they can find more of your content?
Yeah, just DedLeader on YouTube. DED.
DED Dead. Look it up in the comments below, guys. It'll be in the show notes. Go check them out. And thank you, everybody, for listening to the podcast again this week. I hope you had a wonderful weekend or week, a drive, a time at work, whatever it is you're doing to listen. Thanks for listening to the end. If you are watching on YouTube, you can always check out audio platforms. We are available on most of them, and you can actually find video formats over there as well. Otherwise, if you're a supporter, please join us live, because we always love seeing your chat here on the sidebar as we discuss. And you can come in and talk to me and the guests before and after and all that kind of jazz. Either way, have a wonderful week, and I'll see you all in the next one.